much better. Oh, that's water in my ear. Welcome to Kaczynski on Cars. Today, I have Toyota's flagship pickup truck. Before I get started, I do want to thank the kind people at Sarah Toyota of Saginaw for letting me use this truck this weekend for the review. And this one is actually for sale, and it's for sale at MSRP. That's right, no markups whatsoever. So if this or any Toyota or Chevrolet product is of interest to you, ask for Sam. He's an enthusiast like myself and would be more than happy to help you out. This is a 2025 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. The TRD Pro is going to be Toyota's top-of-the-line Tacoma. Now, in case you weren't aware, the Tacoma was completely redesigned for the 2024 model year. From frame changes, powertrain, body style, interior, basically everything that makes a Tacoma has been changed. But what is the TRD Pro exactly? The TRD Pro is going to be their top-of-the-line take at a Baja truck, adding in all of the amenities, basically from a Limited as well. The main competitors are going to be the Colorado ZR2 as well as Ford's Ranger Raptor. But what makes a TRD Pro special, and what do you get? Well, starting on the exterior, this one is painted in ice cap. It does also have the black accents, so you get the gloss black over fenders, the gloss black roof, the gloss black mirrors, to make that kind of stormtrooper look. It is really, really good looking, and it's honestly growing on me. If you don't want this, you can also get one of their TRD Pro bespoke colors. For the 26 model year, it's going to be Wavemaker, and for this year, it is going to be Mudbath. On top of that, you also do get 33-inch Goodyear Wrangler Territory RT tires wrapped in 18-inch matte black wheels. I think they're very, very attractive, and the tires are pretty nice in size, although I wish they were a little bit more aggressive. Toyota also does get you a TRD catback exhaust, which I think sounds pretty good. And then back here, they get you ARB bumpers as well as ARB tow hooks. So if you ever run into a situation where you're up against a rock, you're going to damage your bumper a lot less. Or if you have to tow other people out, not yourself of course, you get the ARB tow hooks. Talking suspension, this is where the TRD Pro goes all the way home. This is going to have Fox QS3 dampers. They are on all four corners. On the rear, they are piggyback style design, and on the front, they do have an internal bypass. They're good for about 9.5 inches of travel front and rear, and they are fully adjustable. Although I want to mention that fully adjustability does come at the cost of having to crawl underneath the truck around every single shock and adjust between 1 to 3 settings as far as the firmness. So keep that in mind. If this is a truck that you plan on off-roading as well as Baja running and doing all the things that this truck is meant for, just be prepared to crawl under the truck when your terrain changes. Also, it gets you rock rails on the side, so if you do plan on doing anything crazy, you're not going to damage the cab, although they're not the beefiest in the world, so I wouldn't lean the whole truck on the side of those rock rails. And then up front, Toyota gets you their TRD aluminum skid plate. That is very proper, very beefy. You also get the Rigid Industries fog lights, and then you do get the light bar in the front, which really lights up the road and is really good for playing a game of chicken when someone in front of you thinks you have your high beams on and they flash you. Trust me, that won't be a problem in this truck. But let's check out the bed, because after all, this is a truck. The TRD Pro does get you a power liftgate with this tailgate bump button, so hypothetically, you could bump it with your elbow and then have the tailgate come down to you, because why would I ever want to lift down my own tailgate? In this Tacoma and all TRD Pros, it's going to be a 5-foot bed, but the Tacoma is one of the only options in the midsize segment where you can get a 6-foot bed, which I think is really cool. Another bespoke Tacoma feature is going to be the fact that this bed is going to be composite. There's going to be no metal underneath there outside of just bracing and structure. I really like that because this is not going to rust, this is not going to dent, and I've never ever seen one crack. So I think that's phenomenal. You also do get the deck rail system right there, which you can slide hooks along the side as well as along the back of the bed too. You get a storage container there, another storage container there, bed lights, and then this has a 2400 watt outlet because I failed to mention all TRD Pros are going to be the hybrid, in which I'll touch on more later. And then once you want to close the tailgate, you can just take your hand or your knee and just bump the tailgate up and it will come all the way up. This Tacoma also does tow about 6,000 pounds, which is very much competitive with its other Baja truck soulmates. Coming into the back seat, this is really where the Tacoma TRD Pro specifically struggles. Now, for those of you who know me or have been watching my videos, I am not a tall individual, nor do I claim to be a tall individual. So this is my driving position. I am actually okay back here, but I know I am absolutely in the minority because these seats are massive and there's not a lot of space back here in the Tacoma to begin with. But this is going to be an isodynamic seat. This is basically industry first in the passenger car market, if you will. Basically has shocks within the seat that help absorb vibration coming from washboard, coming from whoops, coming from jumps. It actually has 1.5 inches of travel within the seat alone, which, if you ask me, is a totally above average amount. That said, it's a big seat that takes up a lot of room. So if you're a big driver or a bigger passenger or vice versa, this is going to be very, very tight back here. You also do have a 2400 watt outlet back here, and then you do have 2 USB-C ports. No center armrest, but these seats do fold down to reveal a little bit of storage, or if you want to take a look at your sweet JBL subwoofer. But enough time back here, let's take a look up front. Hopping into the pilot seat of the Tacoma TRD Pro, first thing I notice is how tight these isodynamic seats are. Now, once again, I am not a big individual. I am about 5'7", 5'8", and about 135 to 140 pounds soaking wet on a good day. And these seats feel pretty tight. I personally like that. It holds me in very well. I could be Baja running this truck down some pretty intense trails and not really have to worry about keeping my body in control. But I would be worried that anyone larger than me would feel pinched and uncomfortable. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this truck. I really encourage you to at least sit in one before you make your decision. Outside of that, the design of this interior is ultra functional and it's really, really impressive. You have big knobs and dials for literally everything, and then everything is a button. Thank you, Lord, because the modern trend in vehicles is going to have everything in the touchscreen and nothing on a quick access button. It's a little overwhelming at some points, but you buy the truck, you learn the truck, and it's instant muscle memory. I really enjoy how functional this interior is, and they do have nice padding where you want it, like on the top of the door, as well as the center console is very nicely padded. But don't get me wrong, this interior is way more functional than it is premium. But let us start it up and I will show you the tech. First thing first, to fire up, this has Toyota's 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. This thing is ultra customizable. You have basically 3 sections which you can customize here, and then you can save up to 3 of these individual gauge clusters for instant viewing whenever you want. Also, if you don't like the traditional 2 pods, you can change that as well, and you can change between several styles of the gauge pod. So if you can't find a way to make this screen appealing to you, I think you have a problem and not the truck. And then moving over to the center, you have Toyota's ubiquitous 14-inch touchscreen running their audio multimedia or the Toyota Connected. It's very snappy and the screen itself is incredibly high resolution. I think it's a very attractive display, although I don't entirely love the software. There's nothing functionally wrong with it, but it's just not the most attractive software in the world. It's just very basic. It is user-friendly, so if you do struggle with technology, this is the truck to get, but just keep in mind, it's not cutting edge as far as design, as far as things you can do with it. But you know what? for what Toyota was going for, I'm almost okay with that. This truck also does have Toyota's JBL sound system. You have tweeters right here, you have a sub behind the rear seat, and you also get a JBL Flex speaker that is completely removable and can be part of the sound system when it's installed. I think it sounds very good. I would say it's not best in class, but I would say absolutely above average. It sounds very, very good. Let's check out the powertrain. So, as I mentioned before, all Toyota Tacoma TRD Pros are going to be hybrids. So what does that mean? So, starting off with the engine, this is going to be a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, internally known as the T24A. It is a turbocharged 4-cylinder, has direct as well as port injection, and it makes about 13 to 14 pounds of boost with a vacuum actuated wastegate. Pretty simple. Toyota did a lot of R&D to make sure this thing is reliable and pretty bulletproof. Attached to that is what makes the hybrid special. This has a 48 horsepower and 184 foot-pound of torque electric motor that's sandwiched between the engine and the 8-speed automatic. Attached to that, you do have a 2-speed transfer case that goes to both front and rear wheels, and then you have a locker in the rear, and up front it is an open diff, but you also get a sway bar disconnect as standard on the TRD Pro, Trail Hunter, and optional on the Toyota Off-Road. All put together, this thing is good for about 326 horsepower and 465 pound-foot of torque. This thing is incredibly responsive and really leagues and bounds better than that 3.5 liter V6. But enough of my talking, let's see how this thing drives. Setting off in the Tacoma TRD Pro. Before we get going, I want to comment on its phenomenal cameras. You have a 360 view camera right there, backup camera. You also have a forward-facing camera. You can see each wheel as well as each rear wheel, which is very, very nice. On top of that, you also have drive modes, normal, sport, and eco. I've honestly been enjoying driving this truck in eco most of the time. You also do have off-road modes with multi-terrain select, crawl control, as well as tow haul, and then 2 high, 4 high, and then 4 low, but no 4 auto. But let's get out on the road and see what this thing is like to drive. First things first, I want to talk about this powertrain, because being in the Toyota world, this has been a very, very controversial subject. And I'm going to be the first to say that this powertrain is phenomenal. And not only is it phenomenal, but it is, I kid you not, leaps and bounds better than that old 3.5 liter V6. I'll be the first to admit, I never liked that V6. It had no torque. You had to rev it to the moon to get any power out of it. I mean, it had an okay engine note, but it was just wildly unpleasant. Not to mention that when you paired it with that 6-speed automatic, they were a horrible couple and really took down the driving experience of the Tacoma. This new powertrain, whether it's just the gas model or specifically this hybrid, changes all of that. Obviously, this being the hybrid, that's going to be my point of comparison, but I have driven a lot of just gas model Tacomas, and they are very, very competent. But what do I like about this powertrain? First off is going to be the response. This thing responds to you instantly. That is one thing that the Chevy Colorado just flat out didn't have. I get into the throttle and I instantly have power. There is no waiting, there is no turbo lag. It's phenomenal. And how Toyota does that is whenever you roll onto the throttle, the electric motor will fill in torque while you're waiting for boost to build. And as soon as boost builds, then it tapers off the electric motor, and the experience is absolutely seamless. Also, at low speeds and light throttle applications, the engine will turn off entirely, and then you'll just be running on EV power, which is incredibly smooth, and that changeover is imperceptible. If you think the stop-start system was smooth in a Colorado or a Ranger Raptor, think again. This is truly imperceptible. Other things that I really like about this powertrain are the engine itself is pretty smooth, and I also think it makes a pretty good noise as well for a four-cylinder. I'll just keep that out there. And then I love the transmission response. It's not the smoothest on the market. It's not quite as smooth as the Colorado's is, but it's much snappier. It can bang off shifts, and it is not reluctant to downshift. It'll downshift whenever I want, however I want, which I think is a breath of fresh air in a lot of these modern vehicles. Moving on from powertrain, how is the ride now that we're in the city? And to be honest, this is where the Fox suspension has let me down just a little bit. It is not harsh, but it is a very busy ride. It definitely feels like a truck. The rear end is almost always moving around a little bit, and you always feel a little vibration in your back. I know that's not anything new to truck owners, especially off-road truck owners, but I know there are other manufacturers that do it better, i.e. GM with the DSSV dampers. Those made an amazing highway and city ride, where there's quite a bit of chop. I've also driven a lot of TRD off-roads and TRD sports, and while they don't feel, super smooth, they are smoother than this Fox setup. We'll see if that trade-off is worth it in the Tarmac Baja part of the video, but for now, it's a little unsettled, but it's not unlivable. Noise levels are pretty low. The tires on this truck aren't super aggressive, so they're not going to be whining and howling, and wind noise and road noise are kept to a minimum. The only thing you do hear from time to time is actually the engine with the TRD catback exhaust. Most of the time it sounds good, but it can drone a little bit here and there, so just something to keep in mind. Now getting up to highway speeds. This being a Toyota, you do have Toyota Safety Sense as standard, which is incredibly nice. It has active lane tracing, it has adaptive cruise control, you can adjust your following distance. It is very good, it tracks road lines very well, and it's pretty unobtrusive. I would say it's probably one of the better systems on the market. The only thing that I would like is potentially a capacitive wheel as opposed to a torque sensor in the rack, so you don't have to tug the wheel to recognize that your hand is on there. But outside of that, that's my only gripe, and it's a pretty good highway cruiser, obviously, except for the little bit of busy ride that this Fox suspension has. Alrighty, just like the Colorado ZR2, we're not gonna go crazy because A, this is a truck, and B, it is 34 degrees and raining and snowing. But let's see how this truck handles and drives in a spirited environment, specifically with level 2 on the shocks. Turn-in is much better, steering weight's up much better in level 2 than in level 1. I still wouldn't say this is particularly a dynamic truck, but it feels so much more controlled with the shocks in level 2 than in level 1. And I can only imagine that control gets better and the handling gets better in level 3, but I can tell you with 100% certainty, you absolutely sacrifice ride quality. And in scenarios like this, I'm spinning my inside rear tire because I don't have automatic four-wheel drive and I have an open diff, which honestly really hampers a lot of the fun that you could have with this truck on the street. If Toyota even put a limited slip out back without having auto four-wheel drive, this truck would be so much more enjoyable to just hoon around the street because this powertrain's phenomenal. The response is instantaneous, the torque is there, it sounds good, the shift logic is good, the shift timing is good. This would be a pretty fun truck on the street to hoon around if it had either auto 4-wheel drive or a limited slip in the back. But as you're about to see, that only is made worse when you try to do a 0 to 60. So let's cut to that. Okay, so the key to a fast time in this truck, 2-wheel drive, brake, torque it, and that's the burnout. Not that. Yeah, this truck really struggles putting power down. Let's try one more time here. See what we can do. Rolled into it a little bit. Full electric torque. Come on, Toyota. And that's going to be 7.27 seconds. But let's just try it for kicks and giggles in 4 high. 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, that was 8.20. So a full second slower. So in 2-wheel drive, 6.99 seconds with 1 foot rollout is going to be all that this truck has to give, which is not bad, but getting it off the line really, really is a struggle. I know that this truck is not meant for that, so it really doesn't mean anything, but just for future notice, if you have to ever cut out in front of someone in 2-wheel drive and get off the line quickly, you're gonna be riding the struggle bus. But enough on-road driving or smooth road sporty driving. Let's take this thing on some Tarmac Baja and see if those Fox dampers really earn their keep. Let's cut to that right now. Welcome back to another episode of Tarmac Baja. This is the TRD Pro. I'm going to put it in 4-wheel drive because we do have a little bit of snow today. And I'm going to keep it in sport mode just to see how she responds. So without further ado, 3, 2, 1, hit it. Now I want to preface, the shocks are in their softest setting, and there is snow, so I'm not going to go as crazy as I did in the Colorado. But we're doing about the speed limit here. And already, I can tell you, it's a lot more unsettled than the DSSV dampers were. I am a self-proclaimed professional. I'm going to show you what it's like to switch the dampers on the fly here in the snow in a real-world setting, because I want to see what level 2 is like. Hopefully we can do this quickly and I don't get too disgusting. Oh, that's water in my ear. Oh, okay, there's that. There's 1 of 3. There's 2 of 3. There's 3 of 4, and again, respectfully. And 4 of 4. Alright, now that I'm officially all wet, let's see what level 2 is like in this truck. Ugh. And I have water in my ear, so that's always a good time. Ah, there we go. Cool. Aren't you glad you guys got to see that? Alright, let's try this with damper level 3 now. See how that feels. You know what? This is already much better. It's so much less jittery. The secondary motions are a lot more under control. I still think it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more drama than there was in the Chevy, but it's much closer now. And I could already tell prior that the truck handles better as well. In level 1, it felt pretty heavily under-damped, which I guess makes sense. So I'm gonna drive this truck around a little bit more in damper setting 2 and get back with you on my impressions, because I was not impressed with this truck and the softest setting, which I just assumed would be best for the street. So let me drive it around and I'll get back to you. Final thoughts on the Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. This is a truck that really grew on me. But what do I like most about it? I've said it 3 or 4 times and I'll say it again. That iForce Max powertrain is truly phenomenal and I believe really should be the benchmark in the midsize pickup segment. Second, this truck is just very capable. Between all the hardware and the software Toyota threw at it, you'd be hard pressed to find a place that this truck cannot go. And lastly, you cannot argue Toyota's reputation for reliability, durability, and resale value. That said, this truck is not without its flaws. And the biggest, in my opinion, is going to be ride quality. While those Fox shocks are great at high-speed off-roading, they don't translate to a cushy, settled ride on the street. Second, I really wish this truck had a limited slip in the rear or auto 4-wheel drive, because that powertrain makes so much torque, it just really struggles putting it down. And lastly, this truck is $68,000. That is about $13,000 more than a Colorado ZR2, and that's about $9,000 more than a Ranger Raptor. But if price is little or no object to you, and you are looking for a Baja style truck with amazing resale value and an amazing powertrain, this is really the only game in town. And personally, I'm definitely considering it for the next truck I buy in the next year or so. So if it's something that you would like to see content on, especially over a ZR2, let me know in the comments below. If you like my videos or want to give feedback, comment as well. Like and subscribe, it means the world to me. I make them for you. Take care. Adios.